there if you could just find out where it's at. But he still said he filled it up, but like when I was using the shower, it stunk like really bad. So we just drained the tank and filled it all up. I don't know.
Oh yeah, but that's not, that can be part, that's just part of the overall.
Faucet and just let it drain out, and then took us about an hour to fill it back up, but then it just...
We're gonna sort it out.
It had like a funky smell, but...
Well...
Yeah, so after we, basically drained it, he's like, where's the hose?
Now. So, you know, so I'm not waiting for that thing to start. We're just going, we gotta do some sampling. We wanna get it started now, and then we'll do sampling later in the year. And so that can just be part of the overall plan. So, that doesn't have to be,
it's not a part of the project, trying to figure out that cost. Because I know when we talked about it, Greg was saying that he told me that that was stupid. Like that was...
Oh, right. But the thing is, they can't even develop that or come up with any plan until they know how much contamination. So we won't know until after the ink is turned. If any. Shouldn't add any to it. Shouldn't. No, it won't add anything to it. All right. Table it, and we'll get clarification. Well. Oh yeah. Right. And that's rolled up into our drinking water portion of it, so it should be all part of the same plan.
Now I've got 1 minute. Oh, I'm looking at the computer one. Oh, it switched. Okay. I'll agree with you. Sorry about that. I told Callie. I told the person who talked to me to know that. This is so sweet. It's 6 o'clock on April 14th, calling to order the meeting for Parowan City Council. Thank you everyone for being here. We've asked Ken Lambertson to give us our opening prayer and to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our beloved Father in heaven, we are grateful that we could assemble tonight as residents of Parowan. We're very thankful for all of the many blessings and for the kindness that you've shown to us throughout the years. We especially want to show our appreciation and gratitude for the moisture that we have received and pray that we may continue to be worthy of more in due season. We thank thee for these good people who serve this city and for the residents who are here to make this town a better place. Guide us with thy love and blessings and support. We humbly pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Oh, turn on my mic.
All right, Council, do we have any conflicts, a declaration of conflicts with the agenda, personal interests, or concerns? No.
No.
Not with me.
No.
All right, and then we need to approve the meeting's agenda. So I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for April 14th, 2022.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we have time for public comment. This public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. And if, you stand up and speak, just recognize that if it's an item that's on the agenda, it can't be, you can't make a public comment, but you could, do it the next meeting. But anything that's not on the agenda, I'm opening up the time to you. I welcome you to come to the microphone. You need to state your name and your address, and, just be sure that you speak clearly into the microphone.
Troy Houston, Parowan City. First of all, I would like to I talked to Matt the other day about some issues that we had going on in town, but what I forgot to tell him was, Parowan City, thank you. I woke up this morning, had water coming out of my tap. Thank you. I went to the restroom. I flushed. It exited the house. Thank you. It's what I want. The power. I had power. Every morning I wake up, I have power. Come on, I get to enjoy what you guys bring to Parowan for the town of Parowan. So thank you. Police department, thank you for what they do. Right down to the crossing guards, thank you. There's a lot of things in town that happen that never gets thanked. So I just thought, you know, I'm going to show up tonight and just tell you thank you. There's always changes that are happen. Nobody wants changes, but they happen. And we need to learn to work with the changes and, you know, just bend a little bit both ways. I have a saying, say what you mean what you say, but don't mean when you say it. But come across, I mean, changes are going to happen. We can't stop it. The world's changing. I'll just give a quick example. I woke up the other morning. My wife bought a little thing to put in the pan to crack an egg, put it in, and it was perfect round. I get to put it on my muffin. And I was like, done it for like 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, one morning I wake up, it's not there. And I'm like, where the heck? So I started going through the cupboards, and I didn't want to go wake her up and say, hey, where's the little circle thing? And finally I'm like, I want my muffin. So I finally walk in. I say, where's the little? She goes, what have you been doing? And I said, I've opened every cabinet. She goes, they're right there. I put them right there because I knew you were going to in a better place. Well, it was a change. I wasn't used to it. I went and looked everywhere else, but right where it's a good spot. So you have to learn to make changes in our life to go forward. So I just wanted to say thank you, and you know, let's be together, work together. But the potholes I want taken care of, Matt, because now I really got one. I've got 2 big ones on both sides of the road now that just happened. But our roads have come far away. I mean, I remember back in '87, a little bit before that, our roads, there were a lot of dirt roads, right, Jim? And then all of a sudden we had chip seal and a little bit of road, and the roads come together. But if we go back a lot of years, we didn't have all the luxuries. I think the main road was Main Street and 400 North, you know, that was sort of paved and went back and forth. And then we had irrigation that come in '87. A lot of things have changed. I just drove up Main Street. What is going on with those trees? Another change. But maybe there's a good reason for the change, and maybe there's not. But we can't keep everybody happy, but sometimes changes are best for the town and for the people. It makes us a stronger person, a stronger community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
Okay. Thank you, Troy. That's really nice to have something positive.
And can I say something before we go to the next comment? Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So Troy, I think you're following my motto without even knowing what my motto is 5 positives to every negative. So like when I get conversations with people, I'm like, okay, if you're going to complain, I'll listen, but I need to hear 5 good things that happened in Parowan, and then you can tell me anything else that you want. So thanks for that.
My name is Diana Peterson. I live at 66 East 200 South. And I am also here to say thank you to the city and to the police department or whoever it was that put up the electronic sign that said, turn left here. Because it really made a huge difference when that sign was put on Holyoke on 200, that people were not driving up a residential street. They were finally turning down Main Street and then up Canyon Road, and I just wanted to say thank you because it really made a difference. We have lots of little kids on that street and some old people who wander around on that street, and they are it's really important that we don't have a lot of traffic going up that street if it's possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The definition is more mature people.
My name's Dave Harmon, Parowan City. I have a couple of comments. I have heard through rumors and other things that we are involved in a big movement to expand the city. I would like to know, and I have not heard from the council or anybody else, if we have a master plan. And if we do, would your council please put it out so the citizens know what's going on in regards to new development in the city? Because right now, I'm hearing we have a 300 house development coming in, but we have no infrastructure. We have a RV park that's being put in right now, and we have no infrastructure. I'm just curious if we have a master plan. And if we do, I'd like to see it put out so that the public and the citizens of Parowan can take a look at it and make comments. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dakota Bader, I'm in Paraguna. What Troy was saying earlier, obviously I'm the one that's removing the trees here on Main Street. Our initial bid for it that I did for the city was to trim them. After the second tree, well, on the second tree, the large tree towards the north end, I called Molly and the city arborist, John Dalton, and showed him my concern. The trees obviously have had root damage 7, 8 years ago. Whenever we redid Main Street, they trenched, caused a lot of damage, weakened the trees. They're old. They're almost as old as Jim, so, I mean, not quite. They're old, but no, they're in terrible shape, and
Like Jim?
yep, they were haggard looking, like Jim. No, they were in bad shape, and there was
Like
nothing,
Jim.
there was nothing left to be saved on them. I had her come down, I had John, and we agreed. She called everybody she needed to, and they said, okay, do what's best. She's got some backlash. I haven't got so much. I put it on Facebook explaining 3.5 minutes what's going on, why we're doing it. I think you might have even seen it.
I did. I even shared it.
Yep. Just to explain, try to get ahead of the rumors. I've had people, probably 10, 12 people show up, ask me what's going on, and I've showed them how dead they are, the infestation they have, and just the horrible shape they're in. They're I think the state arbor said there was like 2% life. I thought there was like 20. And the guy that's been doing it for a long time. Anyway, Molly came to me. She was kind of worried. We had the state arborist, Ryan Johnson, out of Cedar, come over today. And not to toot my own horn, but he said everything I told her and everything I was doing was correct. The one we're trying to save on the very north end, it looks a little funny. We did what we could, but everything left on it is alive. That's all we have. The rest of the trees, besides possibly the corner one, just right here on the corner, I'm going to try to trim it and leave everything we can. But just so everybody knows, so we can explain it to the public, there's literally no other option besides leaving dead trees. That's the only option. So I think it's time, like I said, they've been here a long time. I have a kid coming in 2 months, and when he's in high school, if we, work with the high school district, get some new trees in, when my kid's going to school, he'll have some new maturing trees, and the Main Street, will look a lot better. So if anybody has any questions, like I said, Molly knows my number, and Ryan also gave us cards to give out, so that's the biggest thing.
So have you already gone through and evaluated like all of the rest of them, so we know, so what has been cut down, is that all that's going to be cut down, or are you still evaluating?
I think there's still 5 to come down, and then the corner one we're going to trim and see if there's anything viable. I mean, some of the limbs we're having to take off are this big, and the only thing that's alive is something about that size, right? Tiny, and the cut next to it will be that big. Plus, they're so infested with the borers that Ryan's warned Molly Wynn about the emerald ash borer.
It was a few months
He
back.
said it was coming in, and this is a lilac borer. He didn't even realize it was in, and he said they've been in for 2 years at least. And anybody can come by tomorrow, anytime, and I can give you the rundown or watch the video. It's very obvious, very clear.
The video's great.
Well, and I think it even shows too, like, when the tree came down, it like shattered the whole tree, almost like it was glass, like it just took it,
There's
completely out.
nothing left on them. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know when, maybe Cleve or Jim or somebody would know that's been here a while, but I don't know when they topped them. I guess Ryan said maybe early 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was,
They topped them, and
Been a while.
that's horrible to do to a tree, and long term, it affected these, plus the roots, plus the borers. There's just no
Just a
saving.
combination.
There's nothing left, so. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
thank you for that update, though.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Cindy Stanfield, 300 East. As long as everybody's going to do the thank you, I decided to do it. I wanted to thank Cleve Matheson and the Chief of Police. When we started months ago, I came up with these list of, a few signs. And they were immediately taken care of, and now they have the electronic signs up on 300 at each end. He's going to be moving them soon, but that, again, has slowed the traffic. Unreal. And so I wanted to say thank you to them. And then I drove around town, and I went up and down every street in Parowan, from the cemetery to the freeway to KB and this way. And I wrote a list of every street that needed a sign repaired, that was damaged, that was faded, a yield, a stop sign. Some streets didn't have them. And I gave a list to Cleve because he was jokingly said to me a few months ago, you give me a list. So I finally did, and I gave one to the chief. So I hope that helps. And thank you so much.
Well,
Thanks,
thank
Cindy.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing that work.
Are we replacing the trees that are being cut down in front of the school?
There will be a plan made for that, so the school board will be involved in that, but we'll keep you posted on it. We'll keep communicating about it. Okay, I'm trying to decide if everyone looks pretty comfortable. It looks like you're all pretty comfortable, so I'm guessing nobody else is coming up. We have a big agenda tonight, but thank you for your comments. We're moving into our consent meeting, and these are items we generally approve all with one vote. So we need to have a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items for this meeting, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving into our action meeting, we have a spot on our power board, and Greg Evans is being recommended to the council to join the Parowan Power Board. I need a motion to approve Greg Evans for that position.
I'll make a motion that we approve, Greg Evans as a power board member.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We need to approve a PUD conditional use permit for Falcon Ridge for John Jensen.
Let me start with, Mr. Jensen's in the audience right now, and he can address any questions. This spent a lot of time, excuse me, in planning commission on review. The conditions were set. It's, for some apartments to be built. It, fits within our ordinances. Pardon? Conditions, yes, conditions were met.
You should probably speak into the microphone.
So the conditions were drafted,
sent to John for review. They agree with all the conditions that were or you have them, Callie? It's recorded against the property, basically what they have to do. The map or the conditional use, either one. That's the conditional use. These are all the conditions that have to be met. You can scroll through, I believe there's 4 pages. That's recorded with the property, and then I also have the construction documents when they get ready to do the permitting process. And this is the time you get to ask questions to Mr. Jensen if you have some, or to me. Can you put that map up? This property is on 400 North, right against Interstate 15. It's 3 acres. Owned by Matthew and Austin Lefevre. Are you co-owners? It's in the trust, okay. It's zoned R2. It can have these apartments with conditional use, and so they went through the process to get that obtained through Planning Commission, and you're the final step. And Justin has reviewed the document extensively, and
there are a few things on your conditional use permit that are not on that plat map, but they'll be put on there, so.
Right.
This was prior to the conditional use permit, that's why a few of those things are not on there, but they understand what they need to do.
Yes.
I was just gonna add that Mr. Jensen's been to the Planning and Zoning Commission several times. He's been very receptive to the requests that have been made, and he's come back with adjustments every time and addressed those and taken care of those concerns, and so he's really been cooperative in trying to get this taken care of. So I think that needs to be acknowledged, and that he hasn't tried to resist or do anything that hasn't been asked of him.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the PUD conditional use permit for Falcon Ridge.
I'll make a motion to approve the PUD conditional use permit for Falcon Ridge.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we have item number 12 is the adoption of the fraud risk policies. Is there anything we need to discuss around that? And does any of the council have any questions? Okay, here you go.
Those were passed on to the council from the city treasurer, Judy. I think you've all reviewed them. They have to be adopted every year? Or reaffirmed? One of them has to be done. I think this is...
And then
I have to get right up into it. Okay. Those have been reviewed, or I hope I've reviewed them. I hope you all got a chance to review them. The state auditor... The state auditor requires these to be in place as part of your policies and procedures, so it's just checking another box, and it's a great thing to have.
Okay, thank you. So I need a motion to adopt the fraud risk policies as presented.
I make a motion to adopt the fraud risk policies as presented in item 12 in action meeting.
I'll second it.
Did you get who seconded? Okay.
Go with Matt.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 13 is the water and sewer contract agreement finalization. I'm not sure if Cleve would like to speak to that. I'm thinking he probably does. Do you want to speak to the water and sewer contract agreement finalization?
This was passed on to us from Bowens and Collins. Justin has reviewed it. It is a little more than their initial assessment. All of the scope of work I was comfortable with. I don't see anything, we just need a notice to proceed, so these are things we need to get caught up on.
Don't explain what it is, though.
Oh, the sewer master plan is, it takes into account what you have, how old it is, tells you what your current conditions are, what your future conditions could be, and gives you options on how to accommodate any future growth and maybe troubled areas that you may have, and also maintaining your current infrastructure. It gives you a tool, so as development takes place, development has to pay for the new infrastructure coming in to tie onto your existing systems if they're in the city. This goes for sewer, water. Sewer is, it's right on line with what they projected for a 20-year time frame. So in 2026, I believe, is what the capacity was projected to be at our current sewer lagoons. We need to get ahead of that, make sure we're able to treat a little more capacity, or this study will give us the options, either larger lagoons, aerators, treatment facilities, whatever it may be. And same with the water, gives us a water situation, takes into account your water rights, your aging infrastructure, current build-out projections, water use when new development takes place. They've got to have the water to sustain the new development. That's master plans in a nutshell, and the ones we do have in place are, the newest one we have is 2017 on our water master plan. Sewer, about 2 decades, coming up on 2 decades, so.
Well, we had to have it for our last,
Right.
when we upgraded the sewer lagoon, so we had it done then.
2006.
Yeah, and then I don't think it's been done since.
No, has not.
And I think we're in better shape than Brian had.
Yeah.
Right.
But we need to be proactive, so I think this is a mechanism to do that.
I agree, David, too.
So I need a motion to approve, moving forward with this project and funding this project.
I make a motion that we approve the water sewer contract agreement finalization as itemized in number 13 in the action meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We just put in the minutes that it's with Bowen Collins, just your contract's with Bowen Collins, so the minutes reflect who it was with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 14, Chamber of Commerce request for funding flowers, and followed by, guest speaker, Ryan Paul, the History Department at SUU.
Good evening, everyone. I feel like we're always here asking for money, but that's not the case. We have been doing the flowers on Main Street for the past couple of years, and I know last month Jamie Bonnet came in and requested some help with funding that project this year and requested $2,000. After looking at our supply of the chemicals, it's about half the cost is just the chemicals to maintain them all summer. We realized we still have enough to do this year, so we would like to actually lower our request and just ask the city if they could help us by just paying for the actual flowers. We're still going to get volunteers to do the maintenance and the nightly waterings. and all of the fertilizer and pesticide applications. Do you guys have any questions?
So how much are you asking for?
The flowers themselves cost $1,050.
Okay. Is that what you're requesting?
That's what we're requesting.
Okay, thank you.
Who's gonna water them? Jed Sudweeks has volunteered to take over the majority of the water nights. And then, we're hoping that we can, through donations, create a system that we could, have other people who wanna volunteer to help do that in a way that's low risk, 'cause right now, the way that we do it is not family friendly. Like you're standing in the back of a truck or on a truck bed, to reach it. So we're hoping that, through donations and some, genius minds, we can put something together that community members and business owners can also participate in watering. But for the time being, Jed Sudweeks will take the nightly waterings.
I have a, weed sprayer that may be able to be converted to a watering mechanism, and so if that's possible, I'll give that to you.
Awesome. I will let Jed know that. He's he's the person that would put that together for us.
Okay.
I'll have him get a hold of you. Thank you.
Yeah, have him get in touch with me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Can I have the
assume
floor,
we're
Mayor?
they'll give us a receipt or something, we'll go buy the flowers, right?
Mayor,
Yes.
yeah, just wanted to be recognized. Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
As the commander of the American Legion, I'd like to volunteer the American Legion to pay for the flowers this year.
Thank
I would
you.
encourage the city council to make a, line item for next year's budget in the amount of $1,500, non-departmental, to cover the cost of flowers, or whatever that way we don't have to have a budget amendment, that way we don't have a shortage in this year's fiscal budget.
Thank you very much, American Legion in Cleve.
Oh, that's very
Do
generous.
you have any
Very
objection?
No,
He's wearing his American Legion hat. He's gonna argue with his commander now.
I'm the adjutant, he's the commander, so that's the way it works. But, that's an excellent idea, because the American Legion Parowan veterans pay for the flowers at the Veterans Monument. And so, I think that, that's an excellent idea. I'm surprised you came up with it, boss. But no, I think...
It's to make my job easier here. Depends on which hat I'm wearing.
I understand completely. No, I think that's a perfect example of what we want to do. I mean, we've got money set aside to redo the monument, and I think Dennis and Christine Louder are going to plant those flowers again at the monument, the ones that and Kristen's taking care of it. Absolutely. We'll have a check to you as soon as I can get to the bank.
Well, thank you guys so much.
And, we'll...
Now you guys don't even have to vote.
Yes, I would like them to continue and to...
Yeah.
Okay,
correct
for next year.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, can we make a motion now, or are we gonna hear from,
That'd be next.
the
You
guest speaker?
You can make a motion, next.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept is it Legion?
American Legion.
American Legion's offer to pay for the flowers this year on Main Street, with the condition that the council, make a line item amendment, or is it
A line item for next
year for the city to
Okay,
budget
for next year for the city to budget for these flowers in the amount of you think 1,500 is what, or what?
We've typically spent about 2,000 per year, but
So,
like right now, we have a little bit of
does
a
that include the
abundance surplus.
fertilizer?
Maybe that would be.
Maybe we ought to do
Okay.
2,000, is that, okay.
That's, we
Safe.
build the line that
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
A line item, okay. And so that's on, for our next year's budget, that we'll have a line item to pay for the flowers for 2,000.
Awesome.
Okay.
I will second that motion, and a big thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we
Donation.
wanna thank the American Legion, thank you.
Welcome.
Very
I
thank
need to tell, Claude has to come up with, $1,500 to be deposited in the Legion account, okay? That'll make his day.
This might be out of order, but may I ask a question of the American Legion? How much is the flowers cost for the monument?
What did we spend last year, 1,000?
About that. Well,
They did a lot of soil amendments and bought the bark, and then
Okay.
and then Kristen Robinson has put hours and hours in weeding
Yeah,
and Carla Green doing the
the rose garden.
Rose Garden, and Dennis and Christine Louder volunteered,
Mhm.
as you know, to
Yeah.
plant the flowers. And I've talked to them, and they're gonna do it again, so
Good.
whatever they spend, then they bring the receipt to us, and then we'll pay them.
It's great. I think this is great. This is the way it should be.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And so now, this is a perfect transition. A couple of months ago, I'm sure many of you know that Molly and I participated in the Iron Leaders Academy's inaugural class, and one of the activities that we did over our year-long program was a historical walk down Main Street in Cedar City that was led by Ryan Paul, who's a history professor at SUU. And one of the things that I walked away from that day with was the importance and significance of the public, private, and community partnership. And so we've just asked him to come and share a little bit, just to give you guys a taste of what he gave to us. And so I'd like to introduce Ryan Paul.
Hello, my name's Ryan Paul, and I teach history at the university. Longtime visitor to Parowan, first time speaker at the city council. So, first of all, let me say, in the 20-plus years that I've done this and talked about community and the growth of community, which is my historical interest, it's pretty amazing what happened here today. Not just the generosity of the American Legion, but I've been in a lot of these type of meetings, and I don't think I've ever been to a single one where no one had a beef. Right, and no one threw a bone, or I mean, it was just, it speaks well to what you all are doing. So thank you. I have some photos, and I arrived a little late. Can we put those up, or is that a problem? I'm sorry.
Side note.
You related to Bryce Paul by chance?
I'm not.
Okay,
Well, no, but I know of him.
okay.
Unless you like him, and then yeah.
I was gonna ask that same question.
Oh, I love him.
He's a
but
great guy.
He's passed. I'm sorry, he passed.
Very involved in scouting.
Oh, a great individual. He's the only one that could sell me a funeral plan and a headstone.
While you're alive?
While I'm alive.
I thought you traded a mutton for your plot.
That was my grave plot.
Oh, my. Oh.
Do you eat mutton?
Well, we'll see if that happens. I don't want to waste your time. So, one of the things that has always impressed me with these communities, Cedar City and Parowan, is the way in which they grew and continue to grow. Oh, did it go? You're going to want to do bank, please. I don't think you want my taxes. There you go. Thank you. Just a few pictures here that I think are critical. And then, just play it for me and I'll give you the oh, wow. So the first picture here is, I just think it's a fun way to set it up. This is a 1950s parade of when it was CSU, and the bank, of course, is the building there, the Bank of Southern Utah. So what we find is, as we talk about how communities are built, specifically with the story, the unique thing about our communities, Parowan and Cedar City, is, of course, they're founded by missionaries, and there's this idea of communal growth that happens because most people are of the same understanding and religion, and so those begins to happen. But as more people come in, things begin to change. And what happens is, of course, once the school is built, different folks from all over come in and do this. And this is Nathan Porter. Nathan Porter is the president or principal at the time of the BNS. And he'd been in Salt Lake, and of course, both of our communities at this point were very symbiotic in that way. And they were tied into this idea of a barter economy, which we were very cash poor in this institution. And Nathan Porter is the one that says, you know, if you really want to increase and get people to stay, we need to have a bank that's going to have cash, because there was all challenges with change and co-ops. There was just not a lot of cash around. When people would go on LDS missions, instead of giving them money to do that, they'd give them scrip to go to the local co-op and do those things and buy their clothes and paraphernalia and things. So he did that, and the community got together, including the community at Parowan, and worked together to create this bank, which became the Bank of Southern Utah. And in fact, he was proven to be right, because shortly after this happened, the business in these communities grows by 25% when these groups get together and work. And this is not a city movement. This is not a church movement. This is a partly Chamber of Commerce, but also a group of very interested people who want the strength of these communities to grow, and they see the flow of capital as a way to do that. So the first Bank of Southern Utah is in the Nell Block building, which is this building here. If you're familiar with Cedar City now, that's where Firehouse Subs is. So this building would be Cardin's, and the first bank was in here. Shortly thereafter that, they moved to a new building, which is right here. You can see where it says Bank of Southern Utah, like the horses and the trees, which of course are not existent in Cedar anymore. And the Bank of Southern Utah, this building is still standing. It's used to be in West Title, but it's right there on the corner of, you know where it is, right? You've seen
Isn't it the city office building?
No.
Not that one.
What's that? Oh, I thought somebody shouted something out. So this is on the corner of, this is right across from the bank. What's that?
It's by Hunter Cowan.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be Main Street Books or
Steve Stevens was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, so you can see, I'm going to zip back here. That's the building right there, right? He's exactly right. Stevens store. So that's where the bank was. And then the bank was so successful that by the 1920s, they decided to build a new building. And it's the building that you know, the Art Deco building here, the Bank of Southern Utah. In fact, of course, it says Bank of Southern Utah up here at the top. It's still there. It's now Wells Fargo. It was First Security. And one of the things that I think that's important about this picture is that my father was born in Cedar City in 1942. And at the time, my grandfather had moved to Cedar at the hopes of starting a business, and he bought the business that was in this building here. It's called the Whitaker Building. Now, of course, it's the drive-through. And in his journals, he has a horrible time. He's one of those people who, kind of the good old boys of Cedar City, chased him out. And it was because the person who owned the business before was, I guess, not a reputable business person. And so they kind of said that anyone who owned that business shouldn't be in town. And so my grandfather only stayed in Cedar City for less than a year. At the time my father was born, and then they moved to Milford and then up into Clearfield. So my dad was born in Cedar City, but was only here for a short time. And I think about this idea of how different my life would be if they had been more welcoming, right, and had stayed there. But of course that building's closed, is gone now. But what happens is that like all most communities in rural America, by the economic depression of the 1930s, the Bank of Southern Utah is in a serious financial problem. And it's very clear when I tell the story, people are very adamant that I say the bank wasn't out of money. What happened was the state required a certain level of funding to exist, and the county had decided that they were going to, because of the depression, they were going to push the tax revenues off until the beginning of the next year. So the bank was expecting this influx of December money from county taxes, and because the county said we're going to give you a reprieve, that money didn't exist. And so the bank board, close to Christmas Eve, made the decision that we don't have the money to meet our state needs, and so they had to close their doors. So the Bank of Southern Utah closed the doors, and they went to the state bank board and said, we really would like to reopen. And the state bank board said, you need $100,000 to reopen. And so they said, okay. And in the midst of the Great Depression, they went into their community, even in communities as far north as Parowan, but as Parowan, and began asking people to contribute to build this bank revenue up. You know the story? So people mortgaged their homes, people cashed in life insurance policies, teachers went without pay for a few weeks to add their money. Kids are saving pennies and nickels in cans to try to do this. And so in the midst of the Depression, they raised $90,000. So they go back to the bank board and they say, we want to reopen the bank. And the bank board said, you should just liquidate. You should just close everything out, because the moment you open that door, you're going to get a line of people to withdraw their money, and you will have to close again. And they trusted that. The Chamber of Commerce was very much behind this effort, and so they decided to do it. And the next picture is the picture of the day the bank opened. Mm-hmm. So that's the day the bank opened. And the one thing I always like to point out that I think is cool about this picture is, one, this kid on the tricycle, and this woman sitting in a wheelbarrow. But you just want to know the story behind that woman sitting in the wheelbarrow, right? And of course, everybody in their suits and ties. And what happens is, and the thing that's really amazing to me about this picture, is this is the line not to withdraw, but to deposit. And the bank made another $30,000 that day. And so this made the Bank of Southern Utah the only bank in the state that had closed during the Depression that actually reopened. And that speaks to the testimony and the spirit of community that both our cities lived with, this idea of community above self. And when we think about that, I really want, what has come to me more and more is that no one ends up in Parowan by accident, right? You choose to live here. This is a very deliberate community. Unlike the community that I live in Cedar City, this isn't a place where your car breaks down and you just decide to throw up roots, right? You are here because you want to be here for a variety of reasons. And each of you may have a different reason for being here. But I think that speaks to the strength of this community and what it really is about, that the deliberate nature of the people who live here and want to participate in the growth of this community. And I'm excited by what's happening, specifically what I just saw here, right? This is exactly the bank reopen where the American Legion says, we'll do this, right? We'll make this happen, and we find a way to make that work. So one of the things that I like to tell that story specifically to communities like this is, one, to congratulate you for what you're doing, and two, to really think about, as you build your own community, what that means, right? What those voices that are coming in really mean, and to help people choose to be here. And because they choose to be here, you have a great opportunity to build something that places like Cedar City don't have, right? The community that I live in is very transitional, right? People come and people go. And the challenge that we have here, at least in Cedar City, is, when my kids grow up, I'm not sure they can stay in Cedar City. One, because prices are high. Two, because the jobs are not there. And I think it's really challenging. And you have an opportunity in Parowan that you're fulfilling really well to make sure that those people who come, like your kids, can stay. And I'm grateful for that. And I appreciate what you're doing in that way to build this community and to reflect upon the deliberate nature of who is here. And you can see that by what your residents said. So that's it. Thank you very much for what you do and for letting me share this great story with you. I appreciate it. Any
Thank you.
thoughts or questions?
I just wanna add one comment. The Bank of Iron County in Parowan never closed
Yeah.
in the Depression. So that says something for Parowan.
Oh, yeah. It says a lot for Parowan, and I think that idea of what you're talking about, that spirit, still continues to grow. And as people come in to this community, coming in for specific reasons, there's reasons for them to be here. And what you're doing is preserving that, and that's a great thing. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
And I just wanted to publicly thank Ryan for being willing to come out. I know on that day, the couple of hours we spent with him was just really wonderful. I think he does do tours downtown in Cedar sometimes, if anybody wants to just hear more of his wonderful stories. But thank you guys for giving us time to share that. And we appreciate your willingness to support our efforts and to support us as a chamber. And I'm just very grateful, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 15, direction for Planning Commission on amending sign ordinance 15.50 billboards, and presenting will be Larry Zajac.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Thanks for giving me a minute of your time. I'm really here to talk about a couple different things. I know it's listed under billboards and signs, but we have a couple other small things to address. Moving to billboards first, currently Parowan City does not allow billboards anywhere in city limits, including the I-15 corridor. In that regard, on March 2nd, we had a citizen approach Planning and Zoning, make a presentation and request us to consider revising the city code to allow billboards specifically along I-15 within Parowan City. After some discussion and so on, we made a recommendation to send that on to City Council to see if City Council would support such a change, and secondly, did City Council desire the Planning and Zoning Commission to look at the language and propose some revised language in that regard? Or secondly, does the council prefer to have a subcontractor come in and recommend changes? So in that regard, we're just looking for feedback at some point as to how you would like us to proceed on that matter. The next thing that I would like to address to this body is on March 16th, Councilman Matt Gale came to us with a request to look at the city code to allow, or require actually, as we go forward, curb, gutter, and sidewalk and landscaping in highway services and commercial districts. Specifically, those would be along Holyoke Lane and Main Street. And what we are actually looking for is, we realize that the master drainage plan, were we to put language or recommend language, the master drainage plan might not support some of that language. And we'd like to recommend to the council that they take a serious look at having the master drainage plan rewritten, revised, and so on, to actually include the west end of town. I think the most current master drainage plan is about 2012. My understanding is it does not include the west end down there along the highway. And again, we're just looking for, we're actually just making the recommendation that the council take a look at that, so that we can move along once we have language, we can actually enforce that. And the last item that I have is the status quo for planning and zoning and the city council. The interaction has been, we entertain things in planning and zoning, we discuss them, we review them, we make recommendations which generally become recommendations to the city council. Once in a while, things like I just mentioned pop up that are not, lot changes or not really in the front row seat, should I say, for the city council. And I wonder if the city council prefers us to maintain that status quo, or if you would find value added in having a planning and zoning member address this body occasionally with those sorts of recommendations. With that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Larry.
Does anyone have questions? You can stay up at the microphone and just on any of those 3 points, and any of the council would like to give feedback or discussion to.
So I guess you want feedback mainly, well, I'm just gonna start with the first one, the billboard. You want feedback from us if we want you guys to pursue language to amend the ordinances? Or
Yes.
that ordinance? That's
Yes.
what you're wanting from us?
Well, whether you want us to do it, if you'd like a subcontractor to do it, or if you want it done at all. There is the option that says, we as a council are not interested in billboards, and whatever you bring us, we are not interested in entertaining. And in that regard, I am not looking necessarily for answers to these items tonight. I would fully expect that you would add it to a future council agenda and have discussions, and then, send us a message.
Okay, so with that in the action meeting, is that fine for that item number? Do we need?
Where's it at?
It's.
Is it in the action or is it in the work?
It's action.
It's in action.
Oh, you can either give direction, or you can table it, or you can say you want to
Table it.
table and work on it, or talk about it.
Just a
talk
question.
about it now?
Real quick, now, I'm just looking at the ordinance right now. It is nothing in the ordinance right now as far as signage for that. Or
That's
billboard.
correct.
Okay.
Billboards are not allowed.
There are some billboards there.
Yeah, that's where I was.
Before, and then did that come after?
How
Well, there were some grandfathered in billboards.
Right,
is
so
my
that's why I say, did they were there before and then none's been sent?
That's correct.
I guess that's a city policy decision that you guys will have to make. Do you want your, so let me just tell you, I know very little about billboards. I've read several contracts for people. They're fairly lucrative, quite frankly. I'd love to own some billboards, because you don't maintain them and they pay you a good sum every month. I know that if you allow them, they still have to get a permit from UDOT. You have to make an application to UDOT and go through that whole process to get a billboard. And UDOT will only allow them to be spaced so close. So there's controls through UDOT if that's what you want in the city. Understand that I guess you have to think about the ambiance you want of the city of the freeway going through there. Do you mind if billboards are there, or do you not want billboards there? I presume maybe the city council outlawed them before, so to speak, outlawed. Didn't allow them because they thought they may not look good, but I think it's up to you guys.
Question, does the city get taxes off those billboards? Or would they?
You'll get property tax, and it'll be valued as property tax.
Property tax off the billboard of what they sell, because they're selling the advertisement on it.
I think
I've never
doesn't the property owner get some
They get some,
commission,
yes, correct.
concession? Yeah.
But then if you got Reagan or whoever comes in,
Right.
I'm not
They're the
aware
ones
of
that
any
sell.
I'm not aware of any sales tax, but I wouldn't know for sure. I know the property owner gets paid and your value of your property goes up, because if there's a billboard on there, then the taxes, the value of the property is
or
much
it goes up or it goes down because somebody doesn't want it, yeah.
Well, but it goes up, it's gonna be raised up, because there's income there, and that's gonna raise the value of the property. So you will get an increase in property taxes, I guarantee you. To me, it's a leasing, it's not so much a marketing and sale, it's a leasing, so it's basically contractual, so I doubt there is a sales tax, and I've never seen a sales tax in the contract. So if sales tax is paid, it's not paid to the property owner.
Well, I think it'd be advantageous to have the planning and zoning kind of research this and give us options, and maybe.
And look at like what the state, what UDOT requires, because I'd be interested to see, because if you're saying that they can only space them so far apart, because I personally don't want to see a bunch of property owners just put up a bunch of billboards littering the highway, per se.
I believe that when we had these discussions in planning and zoning, that when we looked at the state requirement, this piece of property was 1,000 feet long, and you could put a billboard every 500 feet. So on that particular piece of property, in theory, if you started at one property line, you could have one in the middle, you could have a second one, and at the end of the property line, you could have a third billboard.
I think you can go look at Enoch, because those sets, just as you come into Enoch, that is,
By the way,
those are the maximum.
now, do they have a setback from your property line? Do you,
Yes, those are provisions. I didn't come prepared really to.
No, I just was curious.
State requirements, I've looked at those before we had all those discussions, and they are quite extensive.
Okay.
Really protected, and just so you know, the state will not even consider an application for a billboard along the highway if the city or town doesn't support it. So if we don't have an ordinance in place to allow that, they are not gonna tread on us, so to speak.
If any of you are just curious afterwards, you can talk to me about the Shivowitz tribe and the billboards. That's an interesting story, down below St. George.
Yep.
I agree with David that planning and zoning needs to look at this and bring back some information for us.
We can do that.
Yeah, just do some research for us and just see.
You wanna make a motion to do that, have them do that then?
Sure, I'll make a motion that planning and zoning do some research on the billboards for the highway in Parowan City.
So would you like a briefing brought back, or would you?
That's where I was kinda going, is how
Yeah.
extent do you want
Like,
this
how extensive do
research?
we
Do you
want
want recommendations from them saying yay or nay, or do you want?
More information,
I would,
so we can
just more information so that maybe we could make
discuss it more.
a discussion and then maybe make a decision. So like, have them do all the legwork, like find different ordinances, or maybe like what Enoch has, what the state code is saying. That would, what would protect us,
The only thing great.
or what are you thinking?
Is, okay, why if we make them all do this thing and we tell them, oh no, we just made them do legwork for nothing?
Well, that is a potential that we may
Yeah.
not go
So I
with
think we need
it.
to make sure where everybody's on board, if they want it or not, I guess.
Well, couldn't you have the planning and zoning though, to do the research and recommend something to us? Doesn't mean we have to accept that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
But
I
they
get
can-
what Matt's saying though too, is you guys spend hours and hours of work and then we're like, sorry Larry.
Well, that or
not
they're
doing
taking, I don't want it to take
But-
precedence over, this is a good thing, I guess, but I don't want, spend most of the time, when you got somebody coming to you, and
Yeah, because
A couple thoughts.
overburdening you, let's put it that way, yeah.
So a couple thoughts. We as a community, which I think that's what we are, owe an answer to the public for a question that's been.
And there has been one
there has
individual come,
yes, and we do need to answer his questions, I agree.
Secondly, planning and zoning is here to do legwork for the council and to make recommendations and do some of that research.
Mhm.
And we are perfectly fine as a body bringing a recommendation in here and having it rejected, as long as you recognize that we did the work.
Mhm. Well, we appreciate what you do, we do, and
Yeah,
recognize
100%.
that.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And thank you for
Thank
all you
you,
do on
Larry.
planning and zoning.
Can I,
Appreciate your effort.
can we follow up a little bit on his second one, as far
Yes,
as the
that's what I was just gonna say. What
master
are,
drainage plan?
yeah, what are we gonna do with that?
I would like to see it come back to us, make a motion, go towards that, if we can go with a different action item next council, and discuss that. Because I think we need to, as a council or as a planning and zoning, we need to prepare for the future if there's any more growth as far as down there especially,
Mhm.
where's the water going? The problem we've got right now, and I've said it in the planning zoning, we've got a big old puddle sitting out there next to KB and the off-ramp of I-15. That's where the water's going, and we don't have any place where this water's going. So we need to kinda address it, so I would like to see that come back to us as an action item for next time.
Can I suggest?
I can't make a motion, that's
you
not
need to-
on the, as an action though, that's a recommendation. I'll make that as a motion to bring it as a action item, and we can discuss it next council.
Well, I don't think you can make a motion.
That's what I thought.
Cause it's not on the agenda.
That's what I thought. It's not
only
really
on the
on the
sign.
agenda, it's actually what he brought to us. That's kinda
So
what I was
it's, it doesn't give enough notice. So, but I would also suggest before you do that though, that you get your engineer involved. At least to some degree, because that's a big thing, and that's a, if you start to do your sidewalks and everything, it's gonna require a lot of engineering planning. 'Cause you're right, that water's gotta go somewhere, and it'll require an engineer involvement, so you might want your city engineer involved.
And do we need to redo that whole plan since it was done back in 2012, or can we
I would say to have
kinda
them look at it
I think
and
that's why you
discuss
need
it.
to have your engineer
like
look at
update
it
it to
before you do it.
include that side of town, the west side of
Well, I
town?
think it's a lot like our airport master plan. You can do a revision as opposed to a
That's what I'm,
complete rework.
that's the word I was looking for, a revision instead of,
So they look at it and change what needs to be changed, but not do the whole thing.
yeah, that's exactly where I was going.
But you may wanna run it to your engineer first, because
Exactly, yeah. Hey, Matt, just
We can do
curious,
all the
isn't
planning
there
we
a
want.
culvert down there that just isn't functioning, that goes under the state, the...
No, it does, well,
It functions, kinda, right?
UDOT did not say, they were gonna go look at it after our meeting, and they were gonna go,
Yeah.
with Davey and everybody, and see if it's big enough, or it's plugged, or not, or the water's going, and stuff like that. So they were, and I have not, have follow-up with them
But
on
it's
that.
not reaching that culvert now either way. The water isn't getting to that point.
Where does it go as far as?
I mean, it isn't even getting to the culvert, whether the culvert's plugged.
Yeah,
or
it's not even getting to that side of the street,
Yeah.
that's staying on that side. And if, my concern was, if we are requiring curb and gutter, we're just pushing it back down that street on that
Yeah.
side by KB.
Okay.
And we're having more problems, and we're not, you know, so that's was my concern,
Oh, I agree, we need to address it.
so.
Okay.
So anyway, I'd like to bring it back to that.
Okay.
If we need to, you know, discuss it with somebody first and then, or whatever, so.
And then bring it back and vote.
Okay.
And do we wanna talk about the third one? My opinion, yeah, I mean, we do all attend here, as far as we've been lately, as far as the planning and zoning, but I think the citizens and stuff like that would like
Right.
to hear regularly, come here and present something, you know, if you want to, I mean, that's up to the mayor, I mean, it's, and you guys, but I would like it, as far as at least the citizens, they don't attend, you know.
I think it's a good idea and would be a good addition to our meeting.
I think
I
it'd
think
be
it would be
great.
a great addition.
I agree.
Yeah.
Would answer a lot of questions for people and it could be ongoing.
Like
Or as
once a month,
needed,
or
As needed, or?
as
quarterly?
needed, probably, as
Well, you
needed.
meet twice a month, so I don't know if you wanna, correlate that with every council, or maybe just every other, you know, maybe, that'd probably be.
You could have an update when needed. They're considered staff, they could be in the staff comment. If it's an item that needs more attention, that would be put on an action item.
An agenda
forward.
item.
Okay.
But a certain update, quarterly or as needed. I think, at the end of each meeting, you can kinda tell if something needs to come forward immediately or if it's not ready yet. So I think as a staff, just as a staff report, minimum,
And leave
at
it
least
up
every
to-
quarter.
Like Larry's discretion.
Right.
When they, yeah, I think that would be great.
In the staff report.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay. request and we will listen.
I think the residents would love to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, I think it would be good too.
Ideas.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry,
Yes,
for
thank you,
all you
Larry.
do. You do a great job.
Round of applause.
All right, introducing action meeting item number 16, the Rock Church recommendation by Ken Lambertson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's good to be here on this particular item. It's been a long time. We started this venture back in 2020. We had the Utah Division of State History, come and visit us. And they toured the building, took a look at it, made some recommendations, and I think you have as one of your exhibits, the state history report. And then as a member of the Rock Church Board, it's taken some time to get some finances itemized to the point where we can make a decision, a financial decision, as to how to move forward at preserving this iconic building that we all love. So dated March 25th, there is a proposal, which you have a copy of, from FFKR Architects, for a no greater than amount, of money to address 4 priorities in getting this building put together. The as-built drawings of all the existing buildings, and then the priority 1 task. So belfry reconstruction and rehabilitation, exterior rehabilitation, seismic work, exterior windows, doors, repair, etc. This is the scope of work, and I'm not going to read it all, but it's the scope of work that needs to be addressed from an engineering standpoint. Paragraph C talks about the deliverables and what FFKR Architects is willing to do for the city of Parowan and the Old Rock Church. Somewhat of a timetable, exclusions, the priority 1 fees, the priority 2 fees, and priority 3 fees. The city now has in its coffers, if you will, about $18,000 towards this effort. But as you look here on, let's see, I'm trying to see which paragraph it is. Roughly $123,000 is the ceiling for the engineering work for this building to be renovated. That's just engineering and architectural work. Now we've got to raise some money to get the contractor to do the work. And so, as a member of the Rock Church Board, this proposal, I'm proposing that the city take a good hard look at accepting this proposal. I know you're not going to find a better proposal anywhere in the state of Utah. We've done a lot of research. Cleve, do you want to mention?
Mayor, I just want to make sure that Ken points out to the council, the FFKR Architects, person that prepared this,
Is the same one that wrote the report.
is actually was working for the state of Utah when they did the appraisal for the state. The first document that he had up, this assessment document, this gentleman now works for this architectural firm. So he has a very intimate knowledge of our project. He also has roots here, so it's very special to him.
And I really like the comments made earlier about the community banking in this neighborhood, because, as the CEO of State Bank of Southern Utah, Eric Schmutz has said he was willing to help contribute to the renovation of this building, and saw fit, we can go back to state bank and ask for, matching funds for whatever we come up with, and make up the difference on $123,000 just to accept this proposal. I think he's willing to incorporate a low or no interest loan to the city that we can make up with fundraising efforts as we move forward. One of those fundraising projects would be selling pavement stones for the oval sidewalk around the old rock church. Callie, I don't know if you can pull up that other document. Go to the last page and take a look at that concept drawing that the state came up with, the last page. One more. Oh, right there, the color lock in. Got the very bottom picture there. You see that oval sidewalk around the building. Roughly, that would be about 9,500 bricks. And if you were to sell a memorial brick for families to put their name on that brick and circle that building, at $300 a brick, we could raise $2.2 million. We could fix the building. We might even have enough money left over to have a new museum for what's inside that building so that we can preserve the collection and historical items that are inside. So, first step is we don't really have a chance to start raising any money until we have a project. We don't have a project until you accept this proposal to spend the money and to move forward with the engineering work and to help preserve this building. So, I recommend the city accept the proposal from FFKR and that we work together to correlate with state bank or other financial options to put some life into this proposal. Any questions, comments, worries? I've been worrying 2 years.
We're worried if we don't do something, we won't have anything to work on.
Yeah, this building is a wonderful building, we all love it. There's some things about it that a lot of people don't realize. Everybody looks at the crooked steeple and they just want to fix the steeple, but the truth is that the roof structure underneath that steeple, the beams across that building are not even anchored to the walls. Those beams are just slotted in the sandstone bricks. They're not anchored. They're just slotted. And so, when I was looking at the weather report the other day at 65-mile-an-hour gusts, I got a little nervous about my house because part of the chimney blew off of my outdoor fireplace. So, I just don't know how much longer this good old roof's gonna hang in there with us. I think almost more important than the building itself is the collection and the historical items inside of it. And so, this whole community is going to have to work together to preserve those items and move them out of the building while construction phases take place. So it's a community effort. It's gonna be, I think, healthy for this community to do this, to preserve this building. It's not a swimming pool, it's not a tennis court, it's not sidewalks or bike trails, but this is the most important asset this town has. So I propose that council deliberate, make a decision on accepting this proposal, and let's get the architects and engineers to work. I have no other comments, unless you have questions.
You know, you look at this town, and I like your comments you said at one of our meetings this last week there, that you look at this community and what do you see there? That Rock Church has been sitting there for years. And they do, I have heard it, people come in and want to go through it, and it's not open, or, you know, right time, and ask a lot of questions, and something like this is, I'd hate to see it go away. So, I mean, something's gotta be done.
Well, in those, items there, they talk about, they mentioned the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Mechanical, the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, that building would be renovated in that regard such that it could be open year-round. And, I think that building, needs to be maintained over time. There would need to be a budget to provide for the facilities maintenance of it going forward. But at the same time, I think it could be its own fundraiser. It could be its own source of income. It could pay for itself. We just have to manage it differently. And, it's preserve it or push it over. That's really what we're looking at. And I don't know how much money it would cost to push it over.
Well, that's our heritage. I don't think any one of us on the
No,
council
I
wants
don't
to
think
be
that's
pushing over this building. I think we would get even more backlash than we are with the trees if we do something with that, if we do nothing with that building.
Well, this is the right community to preserve that building, so, we just need to take a look at that financial package and say,
Right.
bite the bullet and do this.
What is the, Daughters of Utah Pioneers position? You know, when you mentioned to use it as a source to, support itself in generating revenue, they have the lease on it. What, have you heard what their position is?
I can't honestly give you a definitive answer to that. That would be probably more important to ask them that question.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it's not hearsay, but I've heard that they know that we're gonna be selling bricks.
You would want them to stay in afterwards, right?
Pardon me?
You would want them to stay in.
That's a city decision. That's a city decision, because it depends on what you want that building to be. We need to preserve it first. If you want it to be maintained as a museum, it needs to be accessible and it needs to be cleaned up to an extent. But I think I would prefer, others would prefer too, that there be an ancillary building to the Old Rock Church as a museum. And that those artifacts be on display in another building adjacent to the Old Rock Church. That's one concept. We looked at, the old Wells Fargo Bank building as a potential museum. But, preserving those artifacts is just as important as preserving the building.
Yeah.
But that building isn't big enough for all the artifacts that are in there. There's only 3,500 square feet in there. Most of your homes are bigger than that building.
Is that the top and the bottom combined?
That's, well, the main floor and the balcony.
Okay, so that's not including the basement.
It's not including the basement.
Okay. Have they ever made a evaluation as to the artifacts that are housed there and what the acceptable square footage is to house, you know, that many artifacts?
We've got to do some more research on that, Dave, and we have, got an avenue to check with the state library board, that has a historical department to maybe give us some guidelines. They need to come and see what's there, take a little straw poll of what could be done with those artifacts, even to the extent of how to preserve some of them. There is.
But isn't there some standard for how much area you have to
No.
for
I think
each
that would be
artifact?
probably more of your fire code or something like that, as
Okay.
far as egressing and stuff like that. If you got too much stuff in there, you shouldn't have it, yeah.
Right.
I think if we really look hard, we'd probably find we're in violation of something
Yeah.
over there.
Okay.
We really, I know there's no ADA access, and so this proposal addresses that. At one point in time, that building had a stairwell on the north end of the building, where you could walk up a staircase to get to the upper floor.
Right.
And that had been torn down and bricked up. But, engineers are proposing that same location where the stairwell used to be an elevator shaft. So that gives ADA accessibility to both floors for any disabled individuals. I think it's a good proposal. I'm really excited that, Steve Cornell with FFKR, he's pretty passionate about this project. And I think that is an asset and a value to this community that would really help.
So because this is on our action meeting, do we, need to make a motion on it? And I would be open to a motion for, this recommendation from Kim Lambertson on how to proceed with the Old Rock Church.
So are we just voting on accepting the proposal, not how we are coming up with the additional $118,000 that still needs to be?
Or is it basically we are
Committing ourselves.
We're committing ourselves.
You're committing to accepting the proposal as well as committing to a loan somewhere.
to look for financial means to support the loan, or to support the,
And with that commitment, the Old Rock Church Committee can then start its fundraising campaign. I did not wanna start asking people for donations into the Parowan Heritage Foundation, which is our 501c3, organization for funds, if we didn't have a hard project. So if we have a hard project after tonight, then we'll start raising money. Or it could eat a week or two, but we need to move.
Yeah.
question, and I may step on this, I'm gonna talk to, we are looking at budgets and stuff. Where do we get the money to pay for this loan? That's where where do we come out, what's our payments, stuff like that, that's.
Buy a brick.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the initial $122,000.
Your low or no interest loan from the State Bank of Southern Utah.
So I think we need to look at and see if we would be able to, what percentage rate we could get that at, and what would be our loan payment. And if we got that within the budget to start that initial thing.
But if they're figuring,
My understanding.
They're not gonna loan you money unless you have a plan for them.
Yeah.
You've got to have what we're asking the money for.
Right,
You
and
can't go to 'em
and I'm not disagreeing with the project at all, I just wanna know how we're coming up with the initial money.
Exactly.
I just wanna know where the money's coming from.
But in order to fundraise, you've gotta have the plan.
So can we say that we accept this, and we fundraise, can we take some of that fundraiser money and put towards this 122?
Yes,
Instead of taking out a loan?
yes.
No, you're gonna need a loan.
Can,
You've got to initiate the engineering work first.
Right.
Without that, you can't really go to a contractor and say, fix this, and this is how you fix it, and this is how we want it done.
right.
And so we have to get the engineering work done before we can even borrow more money.
Right.
Or raise more money.
My question is, would Eric Smoots be willing to come talk to us?
I think he would be, yes. I think he would be. I think it might be, I don't know if it would be the public side, but maybe if you're closed meeting, he'd be willing to talk to you.
But we need to move on this.
He talked to me, so I'm pretty sure he'll talk to you.
He's talked to me many a time. It's too many.
And if he won't talk to you, I know him.
Okay.
Now, raising money by selling bricks to the community, is just one option. There's other matching grants that we really need to chase and pursue. Steve Decker's been trying to figure out how to get some of this matching grant money, and some of the proceeds that come from selling bricks could be utilized to, get grants from other organizations as well. I think that once we have a project and people know that the city of Parowan's serious, and that we are raising money, we're going to get more people
Oh, yeah.
who will want to contribute.
Yeah.
people want to be a part
I
of it.
agree.
Yeah.
So, but we
But
don't like the firecrackers.
I think it's important to move forward and utilize this individual that has an interest and has been involved in this project and has, you know, he knows, he has a vested interest and he understands what we're doing in the project. And I think we have a unique situation here that we need to take advantage of.
I like what you're saying, Dave, but the other thing too about Steve Cornell, he's got the training and the background on preserving historical buildings.
Right.
I mean, he's a historical architect, he's not, I mean, he really understands that building. One of the comments that he made when he and I were crawling around up in the rafters, it was just amazing to me. I don't know how I can express adequately his impressions when he got into that attic. He just says, oh my, he says, this building is pristine. It's never been touched.
Yeah.
He says, this is awesome. He said, this would be a joy to work on. I mean, he was admiring all of the pioneering skill that it took to build that building in the first place. And then, realizing that, hey, we need to preserve this building.
So he has a passion.
He's
Yeah.
passionate about
Yeah.
it. So,
You know,
We need to do something.
I love the Old Rock Church, and we need to take care of it. I myself would like to have 2 weeks to get our ducks in a row.
maybe within that 2 weeks, we can
Pardon me?
arrange for an appointment with Eric Schmutz.
So can I make a motion to table it for, or put it on our agenda for next meeting?
It's a motion.
Well, we ought to do.
I made a motion.
Okay, but, okay, go ahead and somebody wants to second it.
I'll second it, but then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Okay.
We need to have a plan. We need to just not table it and do nothing. We've
No,
got to have
we
a,
wanna talk, my idea is that we put it back on the agenda for in 2 weeks.
but in the interim, we ought
In
to,
the interim, we get our ducks in a row.
okay, what are you
With that, we
referring
can talk
to?
about where we're getting our money, and I'm not saying loans, I'm saying what money do we have as a city now to do something with it? That's how I feel. I just don't feel like I can,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, Sharon, I don't disagree with what you're saying, because basically the city's committing itself to a $112,000 loan.
exactly.
That's
And-
where I'm coming from too. I'm not against the project
I'm not at all.
all either. I just wanna know how we're gonna fund it. Do we have some money in the budget already that we could help?
We have about 18 or 20, don't we?
Well,
Yeah.
And I know that's a good start, but I just, for me, right now, I would like 2 weeks that we can sit and talk, see where we can get the rest of the money, and then make the decision in 2 weeks. I'm all for it, don't get me wrong.
No, I think everyone in this room is for it.
No, we gotta do it.
it needs to be done.
I mean, that is the vocal point of Parowan.
We just need to formulate a plan. Yeah.
I think you've got a budget coming up in July, right, for your new year?
Yeah.
So you probably need to, again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but you probably need to look at your budget and go through your budget. I think Eric Schmitz will come over here and, you know, Eric will come over here and talk to you and say, this is what you kinda need to do if you wanna get a loan, and this is what the bank would look for. But I think, you probably can't do anything unless you open your budget, and that's a lot of money to adjust your budget right now, but by July, you can probably look and see what you have in your budget.
Mayor?
Where you can pull your money.
Like, she made a motion, I second it, I'd say call for a vote on that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, so we need to vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Right, motion carries.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. No.
You're never a bore.
No, we need to keep it on this, we really do.
All right, moving from our action meeting to our work meeting.
Mayor,
Oh, yes.
I'm so sorry. Could we pause for 1 second? I have to change batteries.
Oh, yes.
See you.
Jim's got a pause too.
I think after she changes her batteries in her thing, probably, maybe. Sorry.
Great.
You could just go or recess if you wanted. I think he's going to the restroom.
Oh.
Mayor, I move that we call for a short recess till Callie gets those batteries changed and Councilman Shirtlift makes it back.
Okay, we'll call for a short recess and resume in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
7:35. That's a good point. We've got some time to do that now. Thank you. That's a really good point.
Is there anybody here that didn't get some Jolly Ranchers that would like some? I've got a bag full up here.
I've already ate all mine.
Well, come up.
I don't share my candy.
You sure?
You share your candy? I don't share mine.
She's still here. You got cleaned up a little bit. Okay. Okay. Oh, good, okay. That's a very good idea. I'm glad he's over there talking to him because I think he's talking to him. I keep thinking there are enough people at Madison.
So Cleve, what do we want?
That it will get carried.
Say if we want to go into closed session.
Just make a recommendation, we go into
Have you got
closed.
somebody else to say it?
No,
or-
you could make your recommendation, go into closed
That's
session.
true,
Just
that's true, and want to be
for
part of
the
that.
discussion of, sale, lease, or exchange.
Those are great
of real
ideas, so
property.
hopefully he's Well, because that's what that is out there for, is vehicles, and they just wanna get it into the right hands to be used in a way that they can talk about a successful project. Right, exactly. It isn't panhandling, it's a solution for these companies and individuals who need somewhere to put that funding. So, I mean, it's like a huge relief for them when something like this comes in front of them, because they're like, this is perfect. Okay, it's 7:36 and our goal, oh, sorry.
I know.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Our goal was 7:35, so, we're 2 minutes off. And we did have a public comment that I'd like to welcome up to the microphone.
But I just wanted to say that last year, we were assured at the museum by that the city council and the mayor had decided that we would absolutely be back in the museum if this renovation was to take place. That that was a guarantee. And I want everyone to know that when it was the DUP who saved the building, or that building would have been down in 1919. And so they've been in it all of these years, and we would like it to be fixed, but we were assured we would be back in there. And I heard Mr. Lambertson still talking about the fact that we might not be. And the promise to the people who gave those artifacts to the DUP years ago, when they started the museum in about 1950, was that they would never leave the building. So we have a problem too. You own the building with the city, but we own what's inside of it. So I just
Right.
wanted that to be on record.
And that's why I asked.
Thank you.
So I'm happy for the 2 weeks. Thank you.
Loanne, what's your feeling about the space for the artifacts?
We've been cleaning a lot of things out. With the pandemic we haven't really been up there that much. But we've gotten rid of quite a few things. I mean, if we don't know who donated them, there are some that are still important to keep, but we have gotten rid of a lot of them, and we're trying to change it and make it look a lot better than it has done. And so our biggest problem is the exterior. It's supposed to be Parowan's crown jewel, and it looks terrible. And so I am not one of the custodians of the building, but I know the Zalewskis and the Millers have been asking for help to get the exterior painted and whatever, and some gutters back up on it for more than 5 years, and it's never happened. So, even if it's fixed in the future, it's still decaying, and how long will it be before they get the money and even start?
Do you think it'd be beneficial to have some help in maybe education on how to preserve those artifacts? I mean, as far as, I'm sure there's things that need to be done.
Like windows and things
Right,
like that, but,
yeah.
there's not been anything done on that building since 1970 on the interior.
What year did you say they saved that building in the DUP?
In 1918 is when the other church was built.
Right.
And so it went on for a few years, and I would have to go home and look, but,
Okay.
There was a big discussion over the city, speaking of swimming pools, they wanted to put one in there. But it was the DUP who probably saved it from being taken down, because they were actually talking about taking it down for several years. But I would say by 1929, I believe. But it took them at least 10 years before they could even use the building. It was pretty well destroyed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a question, just maybe Cleve or somebody, or Body? Who has to say what goes in there? Is it the council, the city? Who, as far as what goes into that building, as far as a museum or?
No, it's DUP.
DUP.
Leases with DUP.
Yeah.
So basically, the leases now with them, they can put their museum into it. So, as it states, if we fix it up, then it stays as a museum.
That's what the lease says.
Is the lease not ending? It's not for a year or 2 years, it's a non-ending lease?
What is it, Cleve, on that? I mean, we,
I think it continues.
indefinite?
Yeah,
Not indefinite.
the lease,
So,
But I think what Ann was referring to, the council did pass a resolution
as,
last year.
yeah, exactly, it said as a museum that we would state as the thing, so basically, only way it would not be a museum is we would revoke their lease, or whatever agreement between the two, right?
Probably.
So if we fix
Yeah.
it up, it would still, right, as of now, would be a museum.
Museum.
The UP would put their artifact, whatever they would like to put in it.
Yeah, unless you revoke the lease and
Between our,
change
whatever it
the-
says in the lease agreement between us and the,
and change the use.
so that kinda answers that question, doesn't it?
Cause there'd be, the UP probably wouldn't be involved. If you did it as a separate venue and did it, change the use and did something else.
And if they have a, I mean, just thinking if there is too much stuff, but can they rotate it every so often? You know, have a place to secure it if they can, then bring new artifacts in
I
and
think
out.
that's a good idea, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, just comments.
But maybe in the renovation, there'd need to be the securing of some building to put those artifacts in to rotate them. Cause they've gotta be preserved in a quality environment, a controlled environment, some way. They can't just be put out in some shed. So,
And that doesn't fall under us, that's DUP?
yeah, they belong to the DUP, those artifacts. Yeah.
Okay, good discussion. We're moving now into our work meeting. We have item number 17, Valentine Peak Sports Complex Ball Field Report. We have community member Andrea Boardman and Dakota Veeder.
First off, Kevin put me down for a break. I was born and raised here, I would love to support something like that. Secondly, so this is what I initially came for, the trees were kinda alternative, but, little trivia, do any of you know how many state championships we have in like the three main sports? Basketball, anybody know?
one.
One. Football?
Well, wait a minute.
We won in 8-man football in the,
Which one are you referring to? I mean, those go back a lot further. You referring to that state championship just a few years ago, or?
yeah, the one I was at, 1920.
Well, anyway.
Right, and then in baseball,
A lot.
championships?
None?
Zero.
Zero. Oh.
Zero. We've taken second a lot, my senior year was part of it, last year was a second place. Anyway, my whole point is, we're here, this is my first year coaching Little League, it's all voluntary, I have no kids on the team, it's no benefit of mine financially or anything like that, it's all to try to help the youth, to try to help the baseball program specifically, as well as all the other programs, help these kids get more involved. The biggest thing is, like I said, the fields from when I played Little League, I'm 27, so, 12, 15, 17 years ago, when I played on those fields, they're worse now than they were when I was a kid. And I mean, they weren't bad when I was a kid, you're a kid, you don't really pay attention, but I don't really let my kids slide. The dirt is better, Justin brought in some fresh dirt for the first couple weeks, I wouldn't let them slide. The fields, the grass, full of rocks, bumps, this and that. There's no, fence crown, the yellow going around the top of the fences, that's a big liability. We don't have nets, old bleachers, we have so much potential there. Panguish, my dad's side's over there, I grew up in the summers in Panguish, all that. They used to have tournaments come in every summer and bring teams from Hawaii and like all over the country. Like came to Panguish, Utah to play baseball. You know, travel league, all that kind of stuff. They brought in a lot of money. They can charge those teams a lot, travel league. Andrew actually mentioned, I think next weekend, they're probably using our fields. I think it's a tournament in Cedar, and our fields are alternative. And I don't know where the teams are actually coming from, but I'm almost like, I feel embarrassed that they have to almost use our fields. The biggest thing is, I'm volunteering, I'm here, like I said, I'm only 2 months in. There's a bunch of other coaches and a bunch of other people in the community that would help. We need a few things personally, and for the coaches and for the teams, like simple things like correct rates. They're $60. All the stuff the high school has. There's a big like landscape rakes. They have the smooth side and then teeth on the opposite side, right? And some of those are $60. The hand drags. Obviously, not everybody has a four-wheeler or side-by-side that they can get in there and drag it with every practice. But hand drags are $100 to $200. In the high school, they have them. They drag it after each game, after each practice. That helps preserve, that helps a lot of things. And then like a nail or a spike drag with a leveler. Just simple things. I mean, like I said, it probably adds up to a couple $1,000 initially. But that's something that I'll do every practice with my team. They have to drag it, they have to camp it, they have to take care of it. Simple things like that, low cost, relatively, to get the fields looking nice for us. And then there's a huge potential to have teams from elsewhere. Lights, I know, to possibly get lights up there to hold longer tournaments, overnight tournaments. They're super expensive, am I correct?
They are.
It's a big deal. I mean, obviously I'm not asking for that tomorrow by any means, but down the road sometime. I mean, what's the one in St. George, that overnight tournament?
The heat stroker and hurricane.
Heat stroker, I believe is what it is. And they make so much money on those. We could even do softball tournaments, like old man softball, like Cedar does. I mean, there's just so much potential up there. And like I said, I've only been up there 6 weeks, 7 weeks coaching with these kids. And it's just, like I said, I'm just wondering if there's anything that you guys have planned, anything for the community, anything for, you know, these young kids. Because, like I said, with the pool being shut down, with that, like, I've been asking my kids, like, what are you going to do all summer? Like, I don't know. I just play video games and go to their friend's house. Like, those are the options we're giving our youth. And I think these other communities, these other towns that are winning state championships all the time, I mean, they've got feeder programs, they've got the facilities, they've got the people, they've got the community. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it's just a dud when it comes to sports, when it comes to our youth. And I feel like if they can have some pride in the sports they play, if they can have some unity, if they can have some of that, we're gonna be able to have, you know, a better outcome, better youth, less drugs. I don't know what the stats are, but I know kids at that age, a very vulnerable age, 7th, 8th grade is what I'm coaching, and it's kind of when your mind's all over the place, and like that, I don't know what they have to do. So that's my biggest question is, do we have anything in plan, including with the fields, going on in the community to where we can get something for these kids so they have something to do? Because there's a lot of movement, obviously, and a lot of young families, and in my head, I'm born and raised here, but like, why are people moving here with young families? Obviously, the small towns often go like, what do they want for their kids? Anybody have anything we have coming up? Any plans, any projects, anything that's on the agenda or on your mind to help the youth, to give them stuff to do?
In lean to, like, more than the ball fields?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
is there anything else?
we're working on getting funding and things for a new swimming pool.
And I'm, like I said, I'm not coming at you guys, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. The new swimming pool would obviously be awesome.
And we are working hard to get funding and get design and all that stuff. It's just takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to pull all of those resources and get everything so that you can actually present something to the public for that. I've heard a lot about the ball fields though too as well. I don't know, guys.
We had, you know, not to talk
No,
over you,
go.
but we had a good discussion in our economic development meeting, also with this. My opinion is those ball fields are underutilized. We're losing, a lot of potential. And my feeling is, I would say let's, maybe if, Justin come to us, if what there is that we need as far as the city council, or what they need out there as far as rakes, or what they recommend, minor stuff or major stuff that we can look for a budget for next year, let's look at that. Because I really would like to see us use them more. Or promote it. Because I know Beaver makes a lot of money off of these people coming into it. Penguich, makes a lot of money off coming into them, and question I have is also, and you brought it up, is there a requirement, and I like how you said it, is when you're done playing, is there a requirement when each team is done playing, would they do the same thing as rake them, clean it up, when they get down there digging and stuff like that on the pitcher's mound or whatever, not make them smooth after each practice or game. I think that needs to be a requirement, on if somebody's renting it, or also somebody that is practicing on it, Little League. It's not that I always see the high school out here doing the same thing after practice. Yeah. Why can't we ask the same thing as Little Leaguers? I think those kids would be happy to do that.
Yeah, and 4 of those drag behind drags take them 5 minutes.
Right.
If we have one of them, it's going to take us all day, it's going to be frustrating and time consuming. But if we have 4 of them, they just walk side by side, just, stack a little bit, and they go back and forth, and their field looks great. And I've talked to Justin Valley about it, and it's like, he's talked to other communities and stuff, and that's how you keep that dirt actually good, right? That's how you keep it from getting packed and hard. And when I hit grounders to the kids, after we get a little bit of moisture on it, and it hasn't been, raked or drugged or anything like that, it's like bouncing on a concrete floor, And I still don't, we had our first game, Monday down in Cedar, and I still don't even let them slide. I tell them they don't have to, because I don't want a kid breaking an ankle or getting a scab on his thigh or on his calf because he thought he had a slide in practice, I don't know, it's just one of those things. And I talked to Andrew, I've talked to Kurt Best, he's coaching the other 7th, 8th grade team, he's all on board. He'll have his kids camp it, rake it, drag it. I'm sure Rob Bernhardt is all on board with that. Like, anything we can get. Like, we have awesome coaches, an awesome chairman, and an awesome Justin with the city that's up there, doing everything he can to help. So we have the people here. And I've even had parents come up to me, and they're like, oh, wow, like, you're pretty ambitious. I'm like, well, that's like I said, it's only been 2 months that I've been involved with, like, they're getting worse than when I played. They, in my head, 15 years later than when I played, they should be a lot better. We should have, I don't know, the bleachers are looking pretty old and haggard, and, it's just, there's so many things, like I said, even the fence, without having that, the yellow that goes around the top of the fence, and a kid jumps for a ball, that's a potential hazard. The nets covering the bleachers, like, kids getting hit by balls, that's, like I said, that's not something we need tomorrow. It's just something to think about, even like a batting cage that we can put up during the season and store away, the net and stuff, store away. So we have the people, we have the volunteers, it's just getting us to the stuff, like, I've already spent a lot of money for my team's nets, for my team's this, for my team's that, for us, and the sponsorship, the sponsor of the team. It's like, I don't really feel like buying the drags, the rakes, and everything, then have to take them home every day because they're mine. It's like, if we can get something to where all of us coaches, can have access, not necessarily to all the facilities and all the keys and everything, but just have the stuff, the resources available, and get that figured out. And like you said, yeah, it'd be something where, even Justin talked about the mound, like the potential mound that he's getting, that he's got approved for, something like, we talked about certain types of cleats that can be on it, and preserving it, and like, if we spend the money, we want, obviously, a good return on investment, and there's so much potential in it.
I have a question when you mention potential. I guess I'm confused. I had the understanding that the ball fields were pretty good as far as compared to the high school fields, as far as the dirt and the conditions and things. They'd rather practice over there and play there than they would on the high school fields.
That's what I was told.
I don't think that's true.
Okay,
think so
then,
They may wanna practice over there so they don't ruin theirs.
no, okay.
I don't know.
So what you're saying, yeah, okay, that's okay, 'cause I'm just trying to understand. So what you're saying is that those fields don't have that potential, the high school fields are in better condition and shape and so,
10 times.
okay,
These have the potential to be like that. Like I say, with us maintaining them, with the volunteers maintaining them, with just getting a little bit of money and resources each year.
Justin, maybe you can explain where I got that from.
I'm not sure where you got that from, but,
Okay.
So our fields have made improvement throughout the years. We have gotten new infill dirt this year and we put it all out. We are getting a new, pitcher's mound. And, I've talked to a lot of other cities, Santa Clara, Hurricane, all these cities to try to make our fields better. And the reason that I'm putting all this time into it is because we have a company called SU Baseball, not SUU, it's not school, it's just SU Baseball. And the guy that I've worked through is Todd, and he says that our field, we're sitting on a gold mine right now. And he says the reason why we're sitting on a gold mine is because we have Cedar City and we have Beaver. And they're always playing tournaments all the time, and we're right in the middle. And he says, and if you guys can just put a little extra money into your guys' field, and, just do a little bit more stuff to attract these people here, they will come. And, super good guy to work with, and like Dakota said, these kids that are coming here, we're getting them from, we have a tournament coming up next weekend. We're getting kids that are coming from California and Colorado. Kids are coming here to play on our field. And the cool thing about this company is that they kept kids playing through the COVID year. And I don't know how they did it, but we had to go through, he talked to Cleve, and I mean, it was awesome to see kids playing, while everything was shut down. And, so we just need just a little bit more, and what I'm saying by just a little bit more is, like you said, we need those protective, crowns that go around the fence. We need, to improve our bleachers, we need the shade, we need, like grass in between each field so when these teams come up, they can warm up. And even the playground, I've had a lot of parents ask, hey, what can we do? Can we get a playground? Do you think the city would be, can we get a playground here so my younger kids can hang out there while I'm watching my older kids? Yeah.
Delta have an awesome one.
And-
Playground is off to the side.
Right, and even like, in what he's saying, like as far as like his kids sliding and everything like that, our fields are getting better. With the water and the dirt that we put on, I feel like they could, we're kinda, it's still too especially, it's kinda in the same boat as like our Lions Park. There's a lot of gravel underneath, so I've gotta go through and I've gotta put new dirt on every year to build up and make our lawns, I guess you'd say, softer for those kids if they have to run out and catch a pop fly and slide and do whatever. But I agree with Dakota, like if one of the kids that I'm coaching has to do that, well, that's kinda up to you, dude. If you think you're gonna do it, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna be landing on concrete. But, I mean, like I said, throughout the years, they are getting better compared to what they were 4 years ago. They are better. So, I think our fields have a huge potential to bring these tournaments in. And our Little League, if we can continue to get their help and, like, coaches do what they say, rake the fields and everything the guy taught with SU, he said the more you use those fields, the better they'll look. He said it's weird how it works, but the more you use them, the better they are.
So Justin, you said you're getting one mound, right?
Yes.
And that's one of the portables,
Yes.
and you need 2 more, correct?
I would say probably at least one more because our other field is the softball field, and I would like to keep that a softball field. Because our mounds that we have there right now are doing their job, and the kids that use that field are small enough that they don't need this same mound that I'm getting. But yes, we could upgrade that mound, so.
Softball fields, it's been a long time since I played softball. Do they have the mounds as high as the little, they're flat?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep. And as far as, and I've also talked to them, and we've had some people come approach me and say, let's put grass on these infields. And I talked to a guy in Santa Clara, and he said, don't do it. He said, it is the biggest maintenance nightmare you'll ever work with. He said, you have to have there somebody constantly working on it, making sure the dirt stays out of the grass, making sure that you don't have any lips or anything like that, which the dirt does, but the grass can get a lot worse. So as far as putting grass on any of the infields, I recommend that we don't do it. We leave it dirt, and that was one of the things that Todd, he said that makes your guys' field unique, is because you guys do a lot, have that grass infield, and you guys don't, and it's kind of different, and people kind of find that kind of neat, kind of cool, so.
I was one of the initial ones that said, let's, like the high school field, let's put some grass and stuff and this and that, just throwing out ideas as I was, on my rampage of what can we do, how can we improve? And then he went and did the research, he went and called people, he went and found out, and then he came and told me, he's like, that's a lot, that's a nightmare. I was like, okay, so what if we do grass? What if we do this, what if we do that? If we can drag it, if we can maintain it, if we have the stuff, it'll be awesome. The only reason I said grass is because it looks nice, it is nice, if it's properly maintained, but it takes more water, it takes more mowing, it takes more time. So a great compromise would be a lot less maintenance, a lot less time would be the drag, the rake, clay, so that we don't have holes, when you fish and when you plant on dirt mounds, and then where you bat where the catcher is, it's like, after an inning or two, it's like that deep, so we need a couple bags of clay, we can tamp it down. There's a lot of simple things that we could do, but it's just starting, it's just getting them done. And like you said, from 4 years ago, I don't know what they looked like 4 years ago, like I said, from when I was a kid to 2 months ago, there's just not a lot of improvement, but from 2 months ago till now, this new dirt he's put, it looks awesome and it's nicer, but we don't have, he can only drag it when he has them in it, like, he's got another, he's got a lot of stuff to do. So, that's why, where we can take away from him having to do everything, the coaches, the kids, we're all on board to help.
Can you get us a list of what you need?
Andrea raised her hand a bit ago. Did you want to come up, Andrea? Or did you, Rob, or did you want to come up, or? I know you're here to kind of represent.
I can add in, but it all sounds good. I think if we have all the tools, we could actually make it happen. That would help a lot. Go ahead.
And I just kind of wanted to simplify this. We just need the maintenance done. We just need that help to make it so that these well fields are worth it. I know you mentioned earlier about the money pit, and maybe to talk about it being a gold mine. The reason it's a money pit, and has been for you guys, is because we haven't been putting the money into it. I have several phone calls because I'm the president of Lily, sorry, Mike and Andrew Boardman. I kind of expect everybody to know who I am. But, I love the idea that putting stuff in, putting it back into these ball fields, it's not just an idea. I know, because I had several phone calls from the past couple months because I was the president of Lily and I reserved these fields. I was able to, you guys have done awesome, by the way, just telling people, hey, the Little League has it, call them. They've called me and asked, and I you know, we would try not to even bug your Little League program at all, and just do it at night if there was light, or just do it at this time, and they have worked around me, and I've called my coaches, like Rob Bernardi, and I said, hey, they wanna come on these days, we want these tournaments here, because we wanna give revenue to our city, I love this city. I'd be able to say yes a lot more, and we'd be able to work, the more money we put into this, it's only gonna be beneficial. It's not gonna be a money pit, it's a money pit because we didn't put money into it. So I just wanted to simplify that, if we could just have the maintenance, and we could just have the help, and make it better, this will be an amazing program for these kids, and an amazing place for these kids to go, an amazing place for families to go. 4 years ago, my grandmother, took, Lily Ann Jones, she took pictures, my son was at the ball field, and his arm got completely sliced open, because of the bleachers. And, of course, we're not the type of people to come to the city and say, well, this is your guys' fault, we're gonna sue you. We're not like that, but there are people that are. 4 years ago, it could've been really bad for you guys if my kid was someone else's kid that had done that. It's just maintenance, and Justin is awesome, and I don't just wanna come at you saying that, I want to let you know how appreciative I have been for Justin, and how appreciative I am of you guys for bringing us dirt and letting us get this going. We're just kind of hoping that with this meeting, we can kind of push it a little more, saying, okay, let's really get this knocking out of the park, so that park is gonna get out of the park.
Cleve, just real quick, where does this fall under?
Parks.
Parks. On parks. What is our budget for the rest of the year on this? We maxed out on it?
I'd have to pull that up, I don't have any idea.
That's why he was saying, bring us a list of how much we want, let's see what we've got there. But another question I've got is, as far as, and we've got a lot of stuff there, how is the security up there? Is it good, or we get storage, or is it something that we need to be concerned with? We put all this stuff in here, is it not gonna be?
Is it gonna disappear?
You definitely need some better storage facilities out there. It's locked, we keep our stuff locked up, you guys have your stuff locked up, and I am in charge of I have a lot of keys, and I know Justin has some keys. There's very few people with keys.
But I mean, as far as vandalism, that's where I'm kinda getting.
Yes, vandalism is a huge part.
Okay, that's where I was.
We had better,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be as big.
it's not just the, baseball fields, it's also the soccer fields. And I don't know why that place is targeted so hard between those two, but it's become a nightmare. It's become to the point where we have to replace a metal door. I mean, they kicked it so hard that, we had somebody come in, look at it, say, yeah, no, this is, I can't believe somebody tried this hard and that long to do it, to get in, to nothing, there's nothing in here that they should have done this, so.
You know, and I'm not over parks, but I think we ought to look at maybe even next year budget, where we're going through our budgets, is if we can add a little bit each year to parks, especially the baseball fields, make it a little better. So come recommendations, maybe we can still add a little bit there, but if there's some left over, let's look at, for this season. I would like to, but I'm not making other council.
I would like to as well.
But I think
We need to.
yeah, and
And there's other things that are gonna cost a lot, like the shading, I
But-
know, it's kind of a big cost, and even the bleachers. I know last year the Little League did some improvement on the bleachers, but they're old, they've been there a long time, so really we need to get rid of them, get new ones in there, so hopefully nobody does. And I've taken the bleachers that are hazardous, I've gotten rid of them completely, because just for that, just for liability reasons.
now, another thing is I don't know, maybe I'm sheltered life. This is the first really hearing about the bleachers and stuff as far as meeting on the council. But I would appreciate, as far as coming to either us or somebody, come to council like we were talking about with the planning and zoning. Just say, hey, this is our concern, our bleachers, we need to look at this year or next year, we need to get these replaced. Or maybe we can do improvements down the road, we can look at it, doing it, and say concerns. We can bring it to council or talk to us individually or whatever not. I think we need to be aware of it, let's put it that way. Because I hate to see It's gone, and and now we're to the pool stage, you know, so.
Right. And not only that, but it will just make our fields look just that much better. And, when it comes, this is one thing that I found out, when it comes to baseball, looks are everything, and they want those things to shine. And, so if we could do, you know, new bleacher shade, all this, I mean, I know there's a list that, and you can't get that whole list. But as far as like safety, there is a few things I think that we need to look at and say, yes, these need to happen as far as like the bleachers and the guardrails that go around the fence. That's something that does make me nervous, especially with these tournaments coming. And then not only that, when we improve these fields, we will be able to charge more when these
Correct.
teams come, because we're charging them, but we're charging them very little. And, as we get them better, I feel like, yeah, we can charge them more, and they will come. And like the guy with Todd, he says, parents will pay anything to get their kids to play, and the kids want to play. And
Can you guys provide a list,
yes,
priority list of, you know,
yes,
what's the most important to get?
Maybe also what, down the road, but also
Yes,
now.
now.
Like right here, right now.
right,
That would help us a lot.
Like safety and then like the rakes, like just
yeah.
things that are like $60 type of things that's not like so overwhelmingly, like the lights on the ball field are gonna cost a little bit to get those, but knowing that that's where our end goal is, and every year we can be saving up, putting a little bit more money into that line item, and then eventually we can get lights, and it just won't be a dream that we want lights. We're actually budgeting for it, and we can afford it.
When he says they will come, like Panguitch is a huge destination. People come from Hawaii and back east because 30 minutes from Panguitch is Bryce Canyon, right? We have Zion, we have Bryce Canyon, we have Bryan Head. We have reasons for the people, the teams to come, you know, for a week, because they can come play for 2 days, you know, pay us to play in this tournament or whatever, and then I guess so their whole family can take a trip, they can go, they can, you know, there's a lot of things to drag them in, and like you said, we're right in between Cedar and Beaver, we can bring those teams in. St. George could even come up, because in St. George, in July, it's 115 and it's 95, you can still play here, right? So, like I said, there's a lot, we can do a lot with these fields, we can make some serious money and serious improvements, and like I said, the whole thing is, it's for the youth, I mean, it's for these kids, it's like, give them an opportunity to play and to be better and to have something to do and something to be proud of too. Like I said, right now, it's kind of hard to.
Well, and I wanted to add from an economic development perspective, I was on economic development before I was elected and came off that committee. We identified, 3 years ago that those ball fields were absolutely worth developing that potential, and I started pursuing the lighting, and we recognized we didn't have anywhere for RVs. Well, now we're going to have a place to put RVs, which is how those teams travel. Justin had me come out and show me his work, and I was really impressed with what he's been able to do with so little. But this is a good investment. This isn't something that we're just going to be throwing money at. And one of the things Justin and I talked about is some letters of intent, and I've asked for letters of intent from other members in the community, because if we can show those leagues really will come here, we can start structuring a financial strategy to pay for what we need to do to get those fields to the level that they need to be. And I've been touring with tournaments with my sister's son, and you're right, the parents aren't expecting primitive out in the sun with dirt and rocks and hard and all those things. They're expecting an enjoyable time to go and have that experience. And like you said, this makes us even more in a position to receive the tourism and the financial economic development side of what we basically are over halfway there too. We have a huge leg up just in where we're located. Where we're located is like a dream. We all know every time we go out there, we just look around and go, this is beautiful. Other people come, and I know both of you have told me they love to come here. They love the setting and it's just, we're just short, we just fall short. And so, I mean, those are the two things just as, that I would ask as your list, obviously, kind of now and then kind of a little bit more down the road, you know, and we can look at sooner rather than later, especially if we can get some letters of intent that say, we will bring these tournaments to you, because then we can start to do a sound financial plan on what we really could do. And one of the points that was brought to me is I've been looking at over the past 3 or 4 years, I might even have bids back farther ago than that to get those fields lit by Musco. And they've come out and met with Jeremy and I, just as a member of economic development, looking at that and the feasibility of it. You know, we might start with just lighting field number 2. You know, we might start with doing some, what did you call it, old man softball. I mean, that stuff brings the community together. It really does. It would be such a great summer event for us to have our businesses and just our residents everyone coming out, supporting, sponsoring. I mean, I spent my youth growing up and going out to summer softball. I mean, it's a wonderful way to continue to build what we're building here. So these are things we can do, and we have to kind of not focus on those bigger numbers like lighting the ball fields, but maybe we do start with field 2. You know, and we can see, again, what does the community want? Is this something the community gets behind and gets excited about? Because, you know, we might be able to fund these things sooner than we think, especially if we can show that it isn't a money pit. I don't like that at all, because I agree with you. I think it's a gold mine.
Well, we appreciate your input here, and I want you to know I'm totally supportive. I apologize for my ignorance, so this is why you're here, and we'll do everything we can to support you. And by the way, it's more mature men with wisdom, not old man's ball.
And Councilmember Downey just told me I can't see Russell Close back there. Or not Russell, that's your son, huh? Oh, Jamie. There you go. Russell's gotten so big I could probably, I don't have my glasses on. Do you have something to say? You can approach the microphone. You actually need to come.
I don't need to.
You need to come up, though. You kind of have to.
Yeah, I just second everything these guys say, and I've preached this for, I don't know how long ago, 15 years, probably more than that, 18 years, and we've all tried to do our best as coaches, and even the kids and everybody helped out painting and helping out, but it just needs more. And if we can bring SU baseball on board and get them here, that place is going to bring in more money than anything else we even got here. You know, it'd be like a Brian Head thing. It'll be coming here all year long, and I think it's awesome. And the only other thing I got to say is the pavement's got to go. It's not fun. You're sitting on pavement and it's hot. The parents don't want to sit on it. The kids don't want to play on it, and it's got to go. That's the biggest thing I see. Who wants to sit around watching baseball on a hot pavement? They want to be in the grass underneath some trees. And so that's all I have to say. And that's a future thing, by the way.
And you're welcome.
So last thing with the lights, really all I got left is, even if we lit field 2, that's the main field. I mean, that's where most teams are gonna play, and that's the type of thing is like, we can actually have an all-day tournament, and it can go into, a lot of championship games in these travel ball leagues, they start at 9 p.m. Like, it's a double elimination. I mean, you go all day. And so, I mean, there's even time I'm sure we could work with Cedar, just like I think they are next weekend, and see when Cedar has a big field, we can actually charge them a premium to use our field. Like, we don't have to just like, you can use them, but good luck, like, don't get hurt. So, that's the biggest thing is just, it's there, and it's not gonna happen next year. We're not gonna make tens of thousands of dollars probably next year. I mean, we've gotta get it out there, but in 5-10 years, I think this thing could be a serious deal.
Right. Thank you.
My thing is, you guys want a list. Do I need to come back next council and give you the list, or do I just?
I want it tomorrow. No.
I say bring it back to council, then.
Or just email it to us.
Or you could, or email it to us. That's easy too.
Thanks, Mike.
one thing I want to add is something we need to consider out there as a resident: security. they talk about storing things and the things that's happened, and I'm gonna tell you, that's become a place of congregation in that parking lot between the baseball and the soccer field. And there's a lot of things that are not acceptable that go on out there. And
Are there lights down there?
I
Is
think
there
there's
any
one street light down there somewhere.
When you come into that east side parking lot,
Did you say there's three?
There's three.
Oh, I know, I was just asking, please. I don't go out
Yeah.
there at night to make out or whatever they go do. I don't know what they're doing, I'm not there.
that's like the perfect spot.
Oh, yeah.
For eighth grade kids that don't have good baseball fields, that's where they're gonna go vandalize.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
If you put baseball, or, lighting the field, I want a remote control. That's an inside joke.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dakota.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 18, reports, updates, old business follow-up from elected officials and staff, and we can start on this end.
With me?
Or do we want to start with Cleve? Cleve, do you? Okay.
Okay, the Shade Tree Committee met on April 7th, and Linda Smith's mother, Mrs. Romberg, donated several trees to Parowan, including replacing the Val Toppin tree, which they got the same species, which is difficult to find, and the plaque will be preserved and used again, so.
So, sorry, I just have a lot of interest in that plaque. So they're going to remove the tree and just leave the plaque there?
Well, when they put the
Or-
other tree, they'll put the same plaque with it,
Okay,
when they plant the new tree.
okay.
And there's a lot of trees that she's donated, they'll be all over the city, I think somewhere in the ballpark out the Valentine's Peak and different places. There's a lot of, volunteers that they've correlated, the Shade Tree Committee, they've got a girls' group, about 30 girls, and the missionaries, that are going to, and the pickleball group, I guess, maybe some of you are aware of that, but they're going to have them work on the Meeks Park, I think, and they're gonna have to, I think they're gonna work on those stones and getting them put on pallets and around trees and things, but they're doing very well at organizing volunteer groups, and they should be given credit for that. They're gonna have a tumbleweed burn at the Valentine's Peak Ball Fields, Recreation Complex, May 3rd. So if you see, I guess, smoke, don't get alarmed. But if you want to participate, they'd invite you out to help, I guess. We've talked about, I guess, pretty extensively what's going on with the high school and the trees. Yes, that changed dramatically from what the original intent was, but it's a result of a lot of factors. Now, I was concerned if the public or the council still has concern over the matching funds and the funds that were approved for this project. If you can read, I think the minutes, March 17th and March 3rd will help. But as we found out, we have in the budget the $5,000 that's gotta be expended, or else we'll lose it. So, anyway, I think that'd be a good place to start, and if you have questions, we can try and make sure you understand that.
David, can I ask a question on that? According to these trees that they're removing, it's gonna cost us more. What is that going, not the cost of it, but are we expecting more, is what I'm saying?
Are we expecting more? You mean out of the city's budget?
No, but I mean,
We now are removing trees.
removing trees instead of trimming it, it's gonna be more money.
Is our bid changing?
Do we have
Well, I talked to John Dalton, and he expressed that Dakota was going to try and keep it in line, because see, there's already expenses there with the trimming and the pruning and so forth. And we had, arrangements made to remove some of the other trees, and so that individual's still gonna help in removing these as
So we're
far as
still looking
hauling
at
off.
keeping it within the same
Yes,
budget. Okay,
a
that's
long way
where I-
around the barn, Matt, we're trying to keep it within.
Okay, that's where I was getting,
Okay.
if we need to come and redress that. or-
We're hoping not.
Okay.
That it's going to hopefully, and the Shade Tree Commission has a couple thousand extra dollars, and so I'm sure if that needs be, they'll try to utilize that.
Okay.
If there's a need. Hopefully, there's not. Anyway, the Shade Tree Commission is doing very well. I think they're functioning very well together. They're trying to take on a lot of projects, and if you look at the health, if you look at trees, you may think they're not an important committee, but think about this community without trees. I think that we can appreciate them. I personally had an experience. I was on a mission in Chicago. We got the sign down in the inner city area, and then for several months you got to leave, go out to the outlying areas where there's a lot of foliage. First thing that hits you, there's trees, because there isn't any in the city. So anyway, it's valuable for health, for aesthetics, for everything, for coolness, for all your atmosphere. Meeks Pond, we're trying to correlate another working meeting with the 4 entities involved. It's been spring break, so we couldn't get the school together. There's these groups that are working on stacking the stones along with bordering the trees. The volunteer groups that I talked about. The dredging is going to go forth. The DWR, Richard Hepworth, says he has the equipment lined up for the day after Memorial Day to start that, and then we'll need to get the pump or the pond pump before that so that we can have that prepared to do that project. Planning and zoning, they approved, of course, the lot split that the city approved tonight for the city's the citizens' information. There was a shipping container approved, a 20-foot one. There's training that's going on. Christian Jones did some training. And then, of course, I think things were covered pretty well here, but about the plan for the upgrade of the storm drain system. But the one thing, I've had a lot of calls, and I just want the people, the citizens to know that this review that the planning and zoning is doing on ordinances related to the commercial highway surface zone is kind of confined to 200 south, but they'll take into account the whole area in general. But it should be noted that the commission did not support any changes to the established residential areas of Parowan regarding ordinances pertaining to curb and gutter and landscaping. It says there are ordinances already in existence pertaining to new subdivision and development, so they thought that was sufficient at this time. And I just want the public to know that more than any, because I've had phone calls with concern about that. The pool committee met on April 7th, and they met to discuss some of the presentation by Jones and DeMille on the whatever you want to call it, the prototype layout of the pool. But more, they went out there on site and met with Jones and DeMille and Pendleton to look about the configuration of the building on site. And and there was a discussion of some cost options, but they haven't got those fixed yet, and they're gonna get back and give us some options on that. I'm sure Rochelle will add to this. And the historical foundation
is trying to meet, and they're gonna have their annual cleanup date, which will be announced. I'm sure it'll be in May, and it'll be determined. And I'm sure they'll appreciate any support they can get from the public. And, just wanted to comment that the Heritage Park really looks great, and I think we need to give Don Louder and Kristen Robinson some credit, or give them credit for that and all the work that they do. And I think that's all I have at the moment.
Are you sure?
Well, if you want me to continue, I will, Rochelle.
No, and thanks to all the people who stuck it out to the end. Okay, so I had a theater meeting Tuesday. They just basically were going over their last play, what money generated. They actually did make money off of this play, but what I thought was awesome was that they had $3,100 in sponsorships from the community. So that's residents and businesses donating money to the play, and I just thought that was really awesome that they got that much money. So shout out to our community and our business owners. Future plays, they are doing the Children's Theater Summer Program. That's Jennifer Terry is doing that, and they're going to do Aladdin in the Aladdin Theater. I just thought I had to put that out there. And then they're going to start cleaning out the costumes and stuff that are up there. A question that I had, I don't know if you guys have an answer. Are the costumes that they have there, are those city property? Yes. Okay.
As far as I know.
As far as you know, okay. I wasn't quite sure, when we're cleaning them out, what they are needing to do with them.
Most of them are donated.
Donated?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're torn, non-usable, yeah.
Salvage.
Are we okay just to
Yes.
take care of that? Okay. I just didn't want to be doing something that we shouldn't be doing.
And I would talk with Jet and the other theaters.
People too? Okay.
They'll know for sure.
They'll know for sure, okay. All right, so, and then I also went down to the shelter and met with Mary, and she kind of just gave me the tour around the shelter, and I was very impressed with the amount of donations for food, animal food, blankets. They run that pretty well down there on donations and stuff like that, so. And then the pool committee did meet. Jones and DeMille really wants us to put out an informational packet to the public, but we all decided that we're not doing that right now just because we don't have enough information to adequately put out to the public. It'd just be what we think we can do, not actually what we are going to do. So we're holding off on that until we can get a more clear definition of a lot of things. We did meet up on site with Jones and DeMille and Larry Pendleton, and we actually talked with Kendrick on Tuesday, and they're working really hard to get us prices and options and stuff for the pool and for the building. And that's all I have. Done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I don't have anything to report. I forgot to make my phone call. We met with, I'll just say a resident that has building experience, and we're trying to come up with a temporary solution for the library roof. And I've got to give him a call and see where that stands. Otherwise, we did not have an electric board meeting, so it's up to Matt now.
We just had a economic health and development meeting. First one we've had since November.
Wow.
I think it's what it is. So we have a lot of new members on there. Basically, they elected Jared Mibus as the new committee chairperson. So he'll take over that position that was vacant from Molly. And then we just basically went over of the purpose of it, of the economic development, and also overview of what passed, and just reassignments, and just kind of go over. I thought it was good input with everybody, and we just come back with some have them to come back next time with new ideas or expand on it, or so we can focus on one or two, but, so we can kinda go from there. But I thought it went very well, at the meeting, so. That's yours.
We had the water board yesterday, got a lot of information. Mark Carney put together a huge spreadsheet of different cities in the region and what they charge for, water services. We're having a, work meeting on Wednesday, to go over some of the, tier system, take a look at that and see what modifications we need to do to not only, prevent overusage, but break it down a little more fairly for the use that people are using the water. And that's the only meeting that I had.
Okay, thank you. So on agenda item 19.
Mayor, I move that,
Hold on, let me tell you one thing real quick here. I just got a text from Jason. I shot him a text and said, how long did it take Beaver to get the Beaver Bash going, which is a baseball tournament? It took them 6 years, basically, to where they're at now. They get 60 teams, and it goes out a week to register, and within 1 week, they have 90% of it filled within a week of those 6 teams. They put I remember they put the fields in, or the lights in, this was several years ago, but if I recall rightly, it was about $350,000 to put them in 10 years ago, so I suspect you're on, and that was, I believe, 3 fields, so I think you're on, I guess you're around $400,000 to put in lights.
Or more.
Or more.
Did he say what kind of revenue they generated?
I didn't ask him on the revenue, but he said it's considered one of the best tournaments around now, and they just, like I said, 1 week they're full. You can do it. And the thing is, they do it at night with the lights, so Beaver, all their hotels are full, all their restaurants are full, he said they're packed. So, and that may not be as much for you, because Parowan's Cedar's only 10 miles away, but Beaver, they're kind of out on a limb, and I imagine Penguin's the same. So they fill the hotels, 'cause they play at night, they don't get done till 11 o'clock. And they go and stay right there, and it's a 3-day tournament, it goes Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, so. That brings in a lot of revenue to the city when you got that many teams. So, that's the information I just got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
okay, Mayor, I move that we move into closed session to discuss the sale or lease or exchange of real property.
All right, do we need a motion?
Second.
A second?
You need a roll call.
Oh, roll call vote, we'll start with you.
We need a second.
Gotta have a
Oh,
second.
okay, sorry.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call.
David Burton, aye.
Rochelle Topham, aye.
Sharon Downey, aye.
Matt Gale, aye.
Jim Shirtliff, aye.
Very good.
All right,
Clean record.
thank you again for coming out tonight and for sticking it out with us. We appreciate you here and your input.
Thanks, everybody. Does anybody want some more Jolly Ranchers?
Oh,
Mm.
thank you.
I am. And I may not come back.
We're going to closed session, you okay?
Yeah, we don't have cookies or anything.
You okay?
I know last time we got you
Okay, bye.
You're not gonna come get me?
Oh, my
I can take 'em home.
The Shivowitz tribe.
Those kids are,
Billboards.
Oh. Keep posting.
You got said,
Hey,
they didn't have permission to
Hey.
do that.
When do you need me to start being involved in this?
Said, no.
You can come anytime you want when they have a meeting. They usually, they don't have them regular, but they post.
Okay, I didn't see it posted.
Okay. You have a number and maybe we can call you.
Our freeway goes through here, but it's in our zone, you have to have a permit. If you don't take it down,
old
We'll come
thing,
see you.
that you remember?
Yeah.
Someone, I can't remember what it
Scribe
was.
said,
Elizabeth
when I
had
talked
to
to
do
you.
you. Real creepy.
So do they leave them
Call
alone?
me or give me your number and I'll decide it.
On our property, look.
Real creepy. It was,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I am sorry, I didn't know you were behind me.
I just can't even say it. I didn't, it was just a product
It was,
that they put in
it
there.
was literally,
Made it lay down and
you
shine.
come on our property,
You know, that's what cracks me up. Oh, yeah, we're a sovereign nation, as long as we can have casinos and, smoke shops, you know.
casinos here in Utah.
Thanks, Doug, I appreciate your offer to help.
And I said, I won't participate. And they said, you're our attorney. I said, you guys got a different attorney. And they said, your choice. I have represented since. But when they came to me and wanted to put up casinos, I said, I'm not interested. I won't bring those in. No.
That would be, yeah.
They haven't got them there yet, but.
That'd be really a yeah.
Can you imagine, first off, the political.
That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
We're staying here?
Fine
We're
with
gonna
me.
stay here?
Can I go? Yes, you go, we're short recess.
Don't do that. If you drink Coke Zero, you will not get headaches. I know.
And so I've been trying to do more like energy powders that give you like natural energy. It freaking sucks. I'd rather just go get my Monster and mix it with a Mountain Dew and I know that's so bad, but I'm probably getting diet today because I do that.
What's that stuff?
It is Coke Zero. It's a diet Coke, but it tastes like Coke with no sugar.
With no sugar, and it still tastes fine.
It tastes the closest to Coke you'll ever have.
Does it have aspartame?
Probably. Everything else does.
I know. You know what, felt like 2 seconds.
Well,
I got one.